Welcome back or welcome front if it's the first time joining. I am Joshua with Weird Gaming Adventure and AdventureGamers.com. And today we have Roberta Williams, the co-founder of Sierra Online, legendary game developer, known adventurer in the boating community, and an author. Roberta, we had Ken Williams, your husband, I have to say Williams, on recently, and we rolled doubles, so we get you as well. How you doing, Roberta?
I'm fine. I'm very good today. Thank you.
Very good to have you. It seems like life is pretty good in retirement, post Sierra days, if you will.
Yeah. Yes.
Boating, riding, you enjoying yourself?
I always enjoy myself. That is one thing about being me is I am always on the move and on the look for new adventures and new experiences in life and one
Mm-hmm.
project to the next, and so is Ken. So I think we don't even get time usually to get bored. So but we're doing good, having fun.
Boating, you've made a name for yourselves. You have the blog. Ken has written a couple
Yeah.
books. That's like a second famed adventure for you folks. You is that something that you're passionate about?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
We that is one thing that Ken always says is that that Ken and I have had our two different 15 minutes of fame.
Hmm.
One was having Sierra Online and the games we did, and the second is being sort of uh, boating a boating fame. We're world cruisers, I guess you could
Uh-huh.
say. Ken's blog is huge. I
Yes.
mean, it really is.
I'm not into boating. However, I'll go check it out because look at we the Williams. I feel like our brothers, our sisters, our families, our parents, they've given us our adventures. We want to know what's going on. That's why we're glad to have you. One of the things that is going on, you wrote a book.
Yes.
That
Yes.
please, can you give us a I want to talk a little bit more specifically towards the end of the interview. But give us a brief rundown of your inspiration and what the book is about.
Well, it basically started after Sierra, after we were retired, I guess you'd say. If you read the book, Ken's book, then you
Mm-hmm.
see it wasn't necessarily a retirement that I wanted,
Quasi retired.
but I was retired and looking for something else to do and to try to figure out my life and where I go from there. And we hadn't, no, I think we had just started the whole world cruising thing, and I sort of stumbled into genealogy. I wanted to know more about that. I don't know why. I like history, and history is my favorite subject beyond just fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
but fantasy and history together is great. I started looking into genealogy, and I actually hired a professional genealogist in Ireland and worked with her for several years. I called around to various family members a lot in the USA and in Ireland, just cold called people out of the blue and basically did quick cold call sales, uh, talking quickly before they would hang up the phone on me. Just say, I really am related to you, but tell me what you know. And so I was writing down stories. They would tell me family lore, and I learned a lot of stuff. And as I did, I started thinking, this is a good story. I took my own family members and I dramatized them. It's like the best way to describe it. It's kind of unique because
Mm-hmm.
if you read historical fiction,
Mm-hmm.
it always has the historical component, of course, of the time period, the country, what's going on, politics, war. There's
The
always
vein of
some
the nation. Mhm.
exciting story
Mhm.
behind it. You pick a historical time that's very interesting. And so I thought the Great Famine in Ireland was a very interesting time. And in fact, it was the most disastrous calamity they say, in the 19th century Europe. It was the most, and it's it is actually also one of the changing, a calamity that really changed Europe, but it also
Mhm.
changed the United States and Canada, to a little lesser extent Australia and England, but greatly affected the United States.
A
And so
trickle-down effect. Mhm.
oh, very much so.
Mhm.
I mean, there was like, oh God, I don't have my numbers. I think they say there's about 75 to 80 million people now in the United States that have Irish ancestry.
Mhm.
I don't have my numbers right now as to how many actually. I was thinking it's like 10 million eventually over time Irish that emigrated as a into the United States, or immigrated, I should say, um, as a result of well, just the Great Famine, but just also the way that Ireland was being governed, and basically through England, and it was not a good situation, and people just left or they died.
And some of my favorite books are historically referenced, based off the Irish immigration. Gangs in New York, probably my second favorite book of all time. And what actually happened when a lot of the immigrants came to the United States, that is a historical reference that you don't need to be a fictional book, because that is there's
It
so
writes
much to it.
itself in a way. It
Hmm.
writes itself. I mean, Ireland lost half of its population in maybe a 20-year period, 20, 30-year period, just due to death and emigration out of the country. And it still, to this day, has not gained back the amount of people that were living in Ireland before the Great Famine.
Roberta, you're not even trying to sell me. You're just being passionate about it, but you sold me. As a book reader and a historical book reader, I'm very, very interested. And I actually want to get back to that like shortly as well. In that vein, all right,
Mhm.
so you started I guess your professional, or at least your known career, writing video games.
Right.
How did, or did it even, writing video games, did it help you eventually be able to more easily write books, or is it a completely different process?
Well, it's different, of
Mhm.
course. What I did was something called adventure games. What I did was adventure games, which is an interactive story. So,
Mhm.
and you make up a story, although generally the story is a little on the it's more of a broad story,
Mhm.
as it's because the story itself is not the only thing. When you write a book, the story is everything, and you're writing, and you're how you describe what's going on and describe the people you have, you have to describe the characters, you have to make them empathetic, you have to describe where they live and what's around them and what's happening to them in very descriptive terms. You absolutely want to bring along the reader, of course, keep them engaged, and but it's a linear story. It's very linear. Of course, you turn the page. Same things with movies. You just
Mhm.
sit there and you watch. You're passive. You're reading a book, it's passive. You're watching a movie, it's passive. You're not doing anything but watching or reading.
Mhm.
So it's very linear. And an adventure game, you still come up with a story, but I wouldn't say that the story is quite as detailed.
Mhm.
Um, it's more broad, it's more general,
Choose your own adventure
sort
type of
of,
book, if you
sort of,
will,
but
interactive story. Mhm.
it's more yeah, it's definitely interactive,
Mhm.
but you choose your own exploration. It's more explorative. There's puzzles that you have to solve, obstacles you put in their way,
Mhm.
but they can choose, so they know kind of the broad outline of the story in a game, in
Mhm.
adventure games, but they can choose where they want to go within it. I know, and whereas in a book, a story is going to lead you. I mean, you have to follow the story, and that's just the way it is. But in an adventure game, that you've got the outlines and the beginnings of a story, but you can just choose where you want to go
Mhm.
in it and eventually come to the conclusion. And so it is a different style of writing.
Oh, trust me, Roberta. I chose where I wanted to go for many, many hours as a youth in the desert, dying of thirst. Poor Graham. Like I remember as a little boy just mapping out like every little desert sequence, and then I see an oasis. Like,
Maybe
so
there's
yeah,
water to drink before I die.
the nectar of the gods is the
Yes.
dialogue like to this day. Okay,
Yeah.
so now you're writing book. Are you writing books? You're known for King's Quest. You're known for quest adventures
And sequels.
and sequels. Would would you dip your toe in a questing type adventure book?
You never know. I mean, right now I'm testing the waters. I guess
Hmm.
that's probably the best way of putting it. It's like when I did my very first game, it was called Mystery House in 1979, 1980,
Hmm.
and at the age of 24, and never did anything like that before. In fact, no, but well, I mean, there was Colossal Cave. There was a few text adventure games where it was all text, so you would read it like a book, but then you could,
Infocom style, yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and
Hmm.
you could type in 1 or 2 word commands.
Open door.
Yeah, yes,
Hmm.
go left, go right, right, open door, those kind of things, or look, look table, or to get more clues as to what to do next. So I had never done it, and so just sitting down doing it all on my own and trying to figure it out was very. I mean, I didn't have any idea how that was going to work, if it was going to be good. And of course, Ken helped me with it because he's a programmer. I didn't know how it was going to work. Obviously, it worked well, and then that sort of propelled me into continuing that job. So
Hmm.
this is going to be kind of like when I did Mystery House, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, so let's just say you did. Well, you did decide to write an adventure, a quest style. What do you think would pair itself well to a style of game that deserves a book series? Oh, we'll just use Kings. Would that
Yeah.
turn into a good
Oh,
book
book.
series story? Mhm.
I think there have been people. My
Mhm.
understanding, I'm not sure. My
Mhm.
understanding is that that has been done, but I may be wrong on that. I
No,
mean,
there's a few fan
fan book.
adventures out there. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
Isn't that
and
crazy, Roberta? You have
huh?
people writing fan books and making fan games off of your games. Like,
They are.
how's that make you feel? I sidestepped here. How's that make you feel?
Well, obviously honored,
Yeah.
honored. I mean,
Mhm.
I love the idea that a story, a series, characters that I came up with
Mhm.
might have life going forward. I think that's great. I encourage anybody to do that. I have to say that Ken and I do not own the rights to King's Quest,
Mhm.
or actually any of the games that Sierra developed for
Yeah.
many. And so that's all owned by Activision now.
Mhm.
So they own the brands, and and I know that there are the fan books, and there have been some delving into trying to design another King's Quest. You say King's Quest 9 or whatever,
Mhm.
and but they actually don't have the rights to do it. I think it's great. I
Yeah.
have I have nothing to say about it whatsoever. Um, and so I hesitate to say, oh yeah, people should do that, but I wouldn't want to get them into trouble.
It's real
So
easy to speak with you because that you've answered three of my next questions without me even having to pose the questions. So uh, obviously we know that you sold the company, you sold the rights. So my next question was, if you decided that you would make a game, what would be the hoops that you'd have to, or could you even try to jump through those hoops?
Graham, watch out! A poisonous snake!
You have to buy the rights or something like that, perhaps.
right now, I like I said, to a certain extent,
Mhm.
there's I hate to put it this way, there's a little bit of been there, done that,
Okay.
kind of. And also I feel like, and I felt this way years ago, right
Mhm.
around the time that we sold Sierra online. Even though I didn't want to, I really was very happy with my job at the time. I loved my job. I have to say, I had one of the best jobs in the entire world.
Mhm.
I really did. It was so creative and just so much fun. But I was retired, and but at the time I was asked, and I have been asked over the years to continue to write or design a game, even by Activision. And I declined because I just felt like technology moves forward and your passions change as you get older and you experience new things. You kind of get out of a certain industry to then to think that after 20 years or whatever it is, that you could just pop back in, and then and you think what the industry is like today and versus what it was then, and you had momentum going then and you had a name going then, and then just to think you could just pop back in and do something and it's just going to be an automatic bestseller, and you're going to know exactly what to do and what today's world and today's people, and especially younger people, would like. I honestly don't think I know anymore. And the last thing you'd ever want to do, being someone in my shoes, is to think you could just drop back in and write a bestseller and you can't.
Well, and this is something that Ken and I discussed when in our interview a couple months ago. It it's got to be, even if you did ever decide to do that, it's got to be nerve-wracking because you're the Williams. You have a name, and to your point, technology's changed. We as individuals, what we are experiencing, what we have access to instantaneously, it's changed. We can't sit still. I'm in my late 30s. I can't sit still. I'm not a youth, and so got to be a little bit difficult. We are talking about how he was kind of goofing around with the little project, and he's like, I don't know if I could ever put something else out again because it's just something that I have a lot to
Yeah.
live up to.
And the cultures change too. What was
Demographics.
fun then may not be fun now.
Sure.
I don't think that, see, I was in my early 20s
Mhm.
when I basically started writing and even thinking about this type of thing. So so I felt right where I needed to be
Mhm.
culturally, and I was apparently. Um, but I don't think I am now. I've not that anymore. And there's also something that basically says, that it's always good to kind of quit when you're at the top, so to speak, and to try to get back in and fail
Mhm.
is not good. It's not good. I
Leave.
hope that's understandable.
Oh no, you know what? Always leave when you're ahead. Like it's a gambling reference. It's a life reference. When you're ahead, you walk away because
Right.
that's going to be the last thing that somebody remembers of you is going to be your lasting memory. Okay, so let's talk about your lasting memory, folks. I just have a couple quick adventure game questions. So, what was your favorite adventure game that you made?
Well, there's a couple of answers to that. My personal favorite, this
Mhm.
is this, I don't know how this is going to sit with people, but my personal favorite that I just enjoyed working on it was
Mhm.
Phantasmagoria,
What's wrong
which
with
does
that?
it was, well, because it doesn't fit with the perception of me. The perception of me is Miss Fairy Tale and or
Disney.
Mix Up Mother Goose
Mhm.
and just sort of sweet and then fantastic. But that was so much fun. It just really was. And but not just from a fun standpoint, but a very creative
Mm.
and really pushing the envelope idea, not even just of technology, but just trying something almost movie like that had
Motion
never
video,
been
yeah.
done before. But I knew with Phantasmagoria I had to have actors. I had to have actors. Not because I was in the mood to have actors just to say I did it, or, oh, I want to do movies, I want to be there and do movies. That wasn't in my mind at all. what I wanted to do was do horror. I wanted to see if a computer game could actually scare you. Could that be done?
It scared me. It scared me
And
as a
my
wee one.
opinion, I really thought about it a lot. And my opinion came out to it. I had to have actors. I had to have actors because in order to be afraid, I mean, really afraid, and you really think about if you're going down this scary hallway and you are pretty sure, and there's a door at the end of this hallway, and you're pretty sure there's something really bad behind that door. You're going, no, don't open that door. How stupid are you? Right? Don't do that. You're thinking that. But you were feeling tenseness as this was happening, watching a movie. But you can read the same thing in a book if it's descriptive and well written enough. And so I was thinking about it and thought, a pixelated character or cartoony, even if it's a 3D, character done pretty well, is not going to invoke that empathy that you need in order to really get scared. You're not going to be as afraid of a cartoon character, pixelated, or even today's 3D world, really, really well done 3D characters done with video games. They're never realistic enough where you're really, really going to get that feeling of empathy. And when you're going to be doing horror, you need to have that. Well, so that's why I said I need to have actors.
And you use the correct word, empathy. Whenever we read a book, if I'm reading a book, I'm not going to read a book where the protagonist is a female, because I mean, sometimes I do, but like I want to experience from what I can relate to.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You put a human in there, and it's not pixelated. It's not like the Alone in the Dark games where it's just a block character going around with sound effects or anything. Right. You're there. You're feeling what they're feeling. And Phantasmagoria did a fantastic job at experiencing that for us on the other end of the computer. And it sold well. So
yeah, it sold really well. I wish we could have done it maybe with technology advancing a little bit more. We were just barely on that cusp of being able to even do it. So it
Were
has.
You part of number 2, Phantasmagoria 2?
No, I only did one, and because I was immediately put on to King's Quest 8 almost as soon as Phantasmagoria shipped. And I actually was very unhappy when they started filming Phantasmagoria 2, because they did not do it in the same way that I did. Yeah. They actually did more of the movie style in the vignettes and things like that, which it was what I did not want to do. But
it didn't do as well, not nearly as well.
It didn't do as well, but a lot of people do like it, so I don't want to. But I also thought they did it a little too soon. It kind of did. Normally, when we used to do, say, a King's Quest, and then we would then ship the sequel, whatever the next King's Quest, we would give it a couple of years between the releases, because once the second one comes out, it to a certain extent it kind of kills the first one. So you want to give it a little bit more time to get out there and sort of
let the wine breathe a little bit.
Its life, and then do the next one. But Phantasmagoria, I think it shipped out within a year of the first one, and it was a little too soon, I thought.
You mentioned King's Quest 8, that you got switched over to King's Quest 8. That was one of the more, this is the view. I'll just tell you, that is one of the more, I guess you could say, controversial Sierra games that have come out. What's your opinion on that?
On the controversy? Well, the controversy, everybody's going to.
It might not be the right word.
No, I think it's the right word. I know it wasn't as well received because it was too different. It wasn't what King's Quest fans wanted or expected.
Mhm.
And I hate to, if you read Ken's book, he explains it pretty well,
Yep.
what happened. But that was right around. I started working on it. I had my team, not the whole team, but producer and my art director and the key players at the beginning of a project together
Mhm.
and discussing it. And the idea had been to really be experimenting with 3D, because in my mind that was the way we needed to go if we were going to push the technology forward with the King's
Mhm.
Quest. The next technology advance was going to be 3D. We sort of discussed the massive multiplayer aspect, and I thought about it a lot because some part of Sierra at the time was saying that's where it's going, where lots and lots of people are playing a game at once, and which I knew that to be true. And so some people say, oh, we need to go that way, and then there's the 3D aspect, we need to go that way. And I knew we needed to do something, just because the technology was changing, the culture of game playing was changing, and that. And to try to keep up, you have to try to keep up as well. If not keep up, maybe even push a
Yeah,
little
you
bit
don't
and
want
be
to
ahead.
keep up. You want to pathfind. You want to.
Yes. Yeah, and that's I've always been a little bit known for that. So so I really had to think about, but then I have my genre that I do, which is the adventure game. That's my genre. I don't do any other genre of
Yeah.
games. That's it. And so in keeping with a genre, if you try to go outside of it too much, you're going to lose the people that love your genre. They're going to say, well, that's not this isn't really an adventure game. This isn't what I love. This is something else. Or she's trying to deviate and go and get me into role-playing games or something like that. Or that's not what I want. That's not what it is. So I had to really think about, as a designer, I put a lot of thought into, can you take an adventure game, the adventure game genre as I defined it, which is an interactive story. Story is important for my type of adventure game. And can you just put lots of people in it at once, roaming around, and each of them trying to solve get through the story or solve the game, and then you bump into other people and you can talk to them, and then you can do this and this and that. And can I maintain the story aspect with that? And I wanted to be able to come up with it. I really did. I wanted to figure it out. And even to this day, and I have thought about it over the years, and to this day, I have not figured it out. And I've come to the conclusion it's not possible. The reason why, your original question you asked was the controversy about it and why King's Quest VIII did not live up to its predecessors, as far as the fan base is concerned. And the reason is because we had sold Sierra at that time. And we were with a whole new company that had different ideas, and they did not understand the adventure game genre. And they thought role playing was the way to go. That was the way to go, and that could ultimately go into the multiplayer aspect. And so the team then was changed around and put together to go down that path. That wasn't the path I wanted to go. I wanted to go down the 3D path, but still be King's Quest, but just add, the 3D world, but still be what it is.
I see.
And frankly, I just wasn't really allowed to. At that time, Ken was out of the company by then, and I wasn't allowed to. And I tried my best to keep and put in those King's Quest facets of King's Quest, what it is, as much as I could, but it was really a fight all the way. That's why it never felt quite right.
Well, so you're saying that you were handicapped and how you had to go about doing it.
From
You
my
weren't able to.
standpoint. From my standpoint.
I look at it from an entirely different game. I don't look at it from a King's Quest series. And once, like the first time I played it, same thing. Like, oh,
This isn't King's Quest.
This is different.
Yeah.
Then I played it a little bit later, and okay, then I separated King's Quest from the game itself, and it was an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people ask this question. Okay, I'm talking tens of thousands of people have asked this over the years on like the adventure game forums or anything. So the King's Quest dead ends, if you will, were these something that were I don't know if that's what we would call them, but so if you were to forget something, you'd have to go back and do them. Is that something that was written in there on purpose?
Well, I think that was probably worse in early games. I know that early on doing Mystery House and then the early King's Quest and some of the early games that I did that were not all King's Quest, they were other games.
Sure.
The genre was still being invented.
Sure.
Partially by myself, actually, not just me, but and so it was a little bit of exploratory on our part as the designers at that time as to what works and what doesn't, and what's too hard and what's too easy. The fans would definitely tell us after the game, and and we'd say, oh, maybe we shouldn't do so much of that, and try to correct that.
Have you played any of the re-releases of any of the Sierra games at all, or seen any of them?
And no, honestly, I'm a person that always looks ahead.
Yeah.
And when I was designing each and every game, I lived those games. My head was filled with that game. I knew every tiny little thing about it, whether even it's just a little animated glint on something, every little sound effect, everything. I knew it intimately. But the minute they shipped, it was like a vacuum came and just took it all out of my head. And people will ask me now, tell me how this one puzzle works in King's Quest 5 or something, and I honestly have to say, don't ask me. I don't know. I mean, literally, everything was the game. And then when it shipped, it was like, it's like some magic wizard came and just sucked it right out of my brain, and it was gone. And it was a relief for me for that. And I don't know why, but I just didn't have the desire to go back and see them again. It's like I was always ready for the next. I had to empty my brain to do the next one, and then and that's just the way it's always been. And
I'm gonna fill your brain back again. I'm gonna have to. Did you write Prince Alexander as your perfect man?
Is what?
Did you write Prince Alexander as your perfect man?
Probably. I mean, I always had kind of a thing for Prince Charming kind of guys,
That is Prince Charming.
I will admit that.
All right. Tell us a little bit more about the book.
Well, I did write something down because Ken is putting together a little promo that he wants to put out there. He likes to do this sort of thing, so it was fun for him. So he was told me to write up a little write-up. It's just 3 sentences basically. Please. But so I'm not done writing it, but this is what I have so far just to get us started. Roberta Williams' Farewell to Tara follows the story of 2 families in 19th century famine-ravaged Ireland, the Clintons and the Lochrans. 2 families of disparate social strata. The Clintons, poor laborers; the Lochrans, middle-class graziers. That would be cattle farmers. Each family in a struggle to survive that disastrous calamity, but with different consequences. In the end, a romance develops between the 2 families, which will change the lives of their divergent which will change the lives of their divergent families, although that's families twice, and their descendants to come.
Well, Roberta, I give you my word. I'm going to read the book, and I'm excited to do so. And I think I speak for myself, adventuregamers.com, that they will all be excited at the very least to see what you're up
Yeah.
to right now, check it out.
Give it
And
a
I hope
try
everybody
anyway.
does. Yeah.
And
Where
if
can we
it works,
find the book, Roberta?
well, it's on Amazon and
Mhm.
Lulu. You
A-
just type in Farewell to Terra and you should be able to find it on Amazon.
And we will put a link on adventuregamers.com on the YouTube channel. So click on that and support our friends. Support our friends who have supported us over the years.
Well, I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much, Roberta. Tell
Thank
Ken,
you.
thank you for allowing us to have some time. And the dog, what was the dog's name again?
The dog?
The
Which
dog.
dog?
The one that's always sitting on the couch, or
Oh, I have two dogs. I have one is named Tundra. Is she lighter colored or
Tundra. Tundra was the one.
Tundra?
Yeah.
Tundra. Yeah, that's
Tundra.
Tundra. Mhm.
Thank you, Tundra, and the other
Is she
dog.
back here?
No, she was earlier when I was talking with Ken.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you
Very
very
good.
much.
Yeah.
Okay.
For Roberta, I am Joshua with Weird Gaming Adventure for adventuregamers.com. We will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Mhm.